Well, well, well. Here we are. And let ourselves land here in the present moment. Being so grateful for the miracle of our existence. Oh, yes, 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 yes. So, Chi time, as you know, is all about energy, your natural vitality, and how we can manage ourselves better in this world when there's so much going on and we need energy all the time to be able to do that which wants to burst through us. So, as you know, if you've seen this show before, that I am really appreciative of my Qigong meditation practice. I also use sound medicine, and I used to be a costume designer. So I have lots of threads of creativity running through me. And my Qigong um, journey has been going for the last 25 years, and it really came into being because I had to unwind repetitive strain injuries in my arms from being, too much sewing, basically. And it's really sort of showed me there on in this importance of being flexible in your joints and in your movements, and this flexibility within my body has fed into the flexibility within my mind, and being able to see things from different perspectives, and always be learning and being in the now moment and being present. And so I love to invite people onto the show that have been inspired by Qigong or are continually to be inspired by it. And on this episode, I'm really thrilled to introduce to you Tom Lawton, who I actually met through a mutual friend of ours, Barefoot Stephen, who is a great supporter of Chi Time, or Barefoot Doctor, you might know him as, who sadly passed a year ago. And Tom and I met at his memorial service. Little did I know what an ingenious inventor Tom is. So let's invite him in and welcome Tom to remember to unmute himself and come into a Chi Time. Hello.
Good afternoon, Clara. It's so nice to be with you. I can't believe it's been a year since we met.
I know.
Can you hear me clearly?
I can.
Fabulous.
Loud and clear.
Wonderful.
I know. And we were first chatting about qigong and stuff, and I had no idea of this, basically this wonder that you are bringing through, and what an amazing inventor you are. And is this, I feel from having seen a couple of things that you've done, that this has always run through you. Have you been inventing since you could build Lego?
Yeah, completely. And I don't really know why or where, but I don't need to question that. All I've ever really done is follow my heart. And I mean that kind of like divinely, like intuitively, like sometimes in life you go down the wrong path and it's the wrong thing and your heart's telling you no. And I've been drawn to making. I naturally see the world in a slightly different way. And I don't really, I never worried too much where it all comes from, but it's an expression that comes from somewhere deep within me. And where is imagination? It's out there somewhere. So I have a glorious relationship with my mind most of the time. Don't get me wrong, I'm still as full spectrum as anybody else. I feel it all. But yeah, as a kid, I grew up actually, because you're in Somerset, you're quite close to Glastonbury, and I'm up here in Wiltshire, and I'm in a little town called Malmesbury. Mm-hmm. But I actually grew up in very rural South Somerset. You could see Glastonbury Tor from a hill called Burrow Hill, which was about a mile from my village. And if you look 20 miles in the distance, you see Glastonbury Tor. So I kind of grew up in the sticks and was I don't know, surrounded by nature. My dad was an aerospace engineer and a self-taught jazz pianist, but I just love people, and I don't know what it is about me being inventive, but yes, yeah, just the way.
Just the way it is. So do you feel that we've all got this natural potential to invent things, and God, to be creative, again, all through the spectrum, in different ways? Do you think that's a natural part of being a human?
Completely. And I think actually my biggest achievement is holding on to this childish kind of sense of the world. And the world is wonder, right? And childish is such a patronizing way to describe it, because it's not. It's actually, it takes great courage to go forward with your imagination and be so positive and optimistic and all these things, when the world says, no, you should be more cynical and linear in your thinking. And I have not. My mind's blossomed as I've got older, and I definitely held on to an integrity within me. So, but I don't feel any different from anybody, in the sense of, I see wonderment in all sorts of people in all sorts of ways, when people can truly be themselves. And I think that's really the art. And I think that maybe I had experiences that made me more determined and more confident. And in fact, it's funny, we talk about Stephen. I have similar experiences of being in trouble and fights, and somehow finding a flow through it, and not attaching to the many forms of resistance that there can be in life. Kind of going, hey, that's fine, that's just you, that's not me, they don't have a problem with me. And I think that I've managed to nurture this this relationship with my imagination. You have to be practical, of course. I mean, I don't live in a dream world. It's a difficult thing to straddle different worlds and dream and be profitable and do something meaningful. And in fact, it's so I have grounding in all sorts of different ways. Few of my friends are like me, and that suits me. My wife is not creatively out exploring the world in the kind of way that I am as like a cosmonaut, but she's there with every insight, every journey, but is grounded in a different way because she's a different person. But we are, I don't know, all I'm interested in is being true to myself, and this seems to be my path. If I was musical, I wouldn't stop playing. If I was a singer, I wouldn't stop singing. If I was an artist, you know, it's that kind of thing. It's just there.
Oh, that's so beautiful. So although we have these unique ways of expressing ourselves, we have commonalities of, you say, being grounded, being practical. And you're not just an inventor, you're a designer. So you're able to bring these inventions to life in this world. So it feels to me, like, Tom, that you have got this a great balance between the right and the left hemisphere of your brain, which we're talking about now is so important to have that harmonious. I mean, we've got this we've got this beautiful sculpture which we're going to talk about shortly in the middle of the screen here, that's just undulating away, and I've got my wonderful Uplift here, but I think the magnet got in the way.
Maybe, or it might be that the sun's starting to wane. Yeah, there's themes that follow through in my work, and the spiral theme is something that I have honestly been quite confused about for 15 years or so, because I kind of like, why have I got this obsession with spirals? I don't really know where it's come from. And in fact, it's funny because in 2009 I was at the top of Glastonbury tour with a different spiral invention, and I found a way to I'm my character, what I am, I'm the person who lifts spirits, right? I just feel that's how I am. If I was in the playground, I would be your mate. If I was if you were bullying, someone was bullying someone, I'd stand up, and then I'd also get on with the bully. I just a kind of a mediator, and I live for unity. I'm a middle kid, an older brother, a younger sister, brilliant parents. I'm here in the mix to make sure we thrive. That's why I'm here. And actually my outlook is one of abundance and one of optimism, and I really am just trying to get everybody on that page. And I don't care about selling my stuff, and one of my biggest challenges has been that I don't care for money, and that's a difficult thing. Actually, you'd think, well, how wonderful. Actually, no, it's been really difficult because I can get into trouble when I haven't planned things properly, all that stuff. I just almost like, I must have missed the page on where you had to be selfish and kind of just, you know, I don't know, focused on your growth. I only see us winning together. And I mean that, and I don't really know where that comes from. I mean, it's just a feeling. I think everything so much is just a feeling, but there's something in me that's been aware for about 25 years that I need to do inventions that help to lift our consciousness and by our awareness, whether that's environmental, whether it's because I've made cameras that shoot 360-degree images because I've been frustrated with the blinkered frame of mainstream media, and there's loads of stuff I've done, but it always tends to be about opening us to something. So the spiral thing is really unusual because I was like, well, where's this coming from? Why have I got this obsession? So in 2009, I was making wind-powered lights to show people how beautiful renewable energy could be. Could I see the wind? I like the idea of being able to see the invisible. It's like there's something in my mind that tells me that there's so much more here, but we can't see it with our sometimes limited instrumentation. And I mean, like, we can only see a certain frequency of light, frequency of sound, but I think that there's more, and in so many ways. And science now tells you so much is so. But the thing with spirals was unusual, but it started off, as I say, at least maybe 15 years ago, and I'd found myself, I had a car crash, and I was incapacitated. I had a terrible car crash in France, and I was unable to walk properly for about 18 months, which is, I was 26, and I spent, it was actually like everything in life, and this is why I became such good friends with Stephen. Everything serves you in some sort of form. So, my God, what a nightmare at 26, couldn't walk properly, took an enormous amount of effort to get myself fine. And bearing in mind, I was always going to be fine. I didn't do anything that was complex or messed my nervous system or my spine or anything, just had bad injuries. But I was forced to sit on my bum. And of course, that allowed me to invent, because it's almost like forced to deal with boredom or whatever it might be. And that time was the first time in my life I became aware that my mental health was actually not to be taken for granted. And I realized, because I couldn't move in the same way, I couldn't just, I had pain, and I couldn't just, like, emotions didn't fall off me like a water on a duck's back. They used to be just like, hey, whatever, throw at me whatever, and I get by it. And suddenly I found myself absorbing more negativity. I think we were in post-September the 11th, whatever the reason. You only have to turn on the news and there's all this negativity. And I started to visualize the wind as an energy force, and I wanted to see it, and I wanted to make these spirals that would move, so the worse the weather got, the more exciting and energetic they got. And I've got one up there. Give me 2 seconds, because I'm talking abstractly. I must show you.
Yeah, sure. So you got
yeah. So this was my first spiral project, and I just wanted to make something cool with the wind. So these spiral, right? So this would be pure wind energy, and as I say, I look back to the tour. But I was doing this thing, wanted to see the wind, make it with spirals, and I went on honeymoon to Java, and I'm like, I'm not tied with any religion or philosophy. I'm actually not very well read. I'm very well listened. I meet people all the time and I absorb stories. That's how I'm informed. And I went to Java on honeymoon, and I talked about this project with this lovely guy called Jack, who was a Buddhist teacher, and he said, this object, which I called the Firewinder, it sounds remarkable. He said, does it turn clockwise? And I was like, no, it turns anti-clockwise. He says, it must turn clockwise so that it evokes the good spirits. So much like a prayer wheel, it would, when the wind would blow into it from any direction, it would turn itself clockwise, and it would create this illuminating upward spiral of light. Beautiful, very nice. We lit Glastonbury tour. I won the biggest design award in America, Green Design Award in America. Frustratingly, the business was strangled by Barclays, of all people. It was part of the 2008 crash, all that kind of stuff. I mean, I'll have remortgaged for this. I'll have sold the car for prototypes. Do any which way possible to make this happen. And that business didn't go forward. I did other things for a while, and I started growing a family. And then this spiral theme came back to me. So it's a theme that's there, and I don't quite know why.
Can I just interject with that? Because spirals, I think, are innately within all of us. I think that they're part of our matrix of being. I mean, spirals turn up in like hieroglyphs and in cave paintings. I mean, they've been with humanity for such a long time, and it's something that I'm really intrigued by. The spirals within the Qigong movements that I play with, and and this natural way of, it's not just circling, it's spiraling. So I'm sure you would be drawn back to it as someone that is tuned into this energy.
Totally, and I don't question that anymore. And I'll explain where that philosophically it got to. But I think actually the attraction to spirals was almost what they symbolised in a kind of polar opposite to what I would describe as linear, mechanical, logical thinking. So if you take, and I kind of take the whole of the 20th century a bit like this, and I can summarize it metaphorically in an object that was on the top of every on every executive. If you saw a movie and it was based in Wall Street in America, the guy at the top of the building had a desk with a leather chair, and on that desk he had a Newton's cradle, and it was the balls, and it was this mechanistic kind of thing, not one side to the other to the other. And I call this ping pong thinking, and it's the ability to only see this binary outcome, this left versus right, this men versus women, this dog versus cats, this kind of silly, inhibited, no nuanced way of seeing the world. And I'm being somebody who's the opposite to that. I wouldn't be worried about taking the shortest cut. I'd take the walk by the river. Do you know what I mean? And it's the same kind of way. I'm not drawn to efficiency necessarily as the thing. I don't have to win. I don't have to be the biggest. I don't have to be the fastest. I have to just go in my way. And so all of this invites an attraction to more spiral-like forms. But I think part of it was I didn't really get the mechanistic binary logic A and B kind of options. I thought options are everywhere. I remember as a child thinking, they'd say, oh, you think out of the box, and you literally have to go, what is a box?
Exactly.
I mean, what is a box? And what do you mean you think out of it? I'd then be thinking of a box in my head and thinking, how did I put my head in there? What a weird place. I mean, I just don't see the world as the textbooks might necessarily present it. And to me, there was always a few pages missing. So whether it was economics, whether it was design, whether it was whatever it was, I kind of didn't understand why everything wasn't all joined up. Because in my mind, and I am intelligent and bright, and I could just make associations. Why isn't geography part of economics? How can there be no planetary cost to things? How can humanities not be involved in economics? There are social costs, all of these things.
It's all joined up, it's all connected. And I guess to be able to study different aspects, you do kind of have to look, well, just look at this, but we know it's actually part of that. I mean, that's very key working with the elemental Qigong that I do, is that we study, say, the wood element, which is where we are at the moment, Northern Hemisphere in the springtime. But you can't just do wood element. You've got the water in there, you've got the earth in there, and you've got the air, and but you just might be focusing on the liver or something, and we'll just look at it at the moment, but in association with knowing that those connections are what keeps it all coherent and together and weaving this beautiful dance that life is.
Absolutely. And dance is the perfect word. You don't, well, they do. I know people they can do the robot, can't they? Which is very mechanistic. But yeah, my God, as a dancer, I can't even imagine what I would have been like at 20, but I would have not been conventional anyhow. And so this relationship with spirals was interesting. And as I say, when I did this thing, it was I was advised, to make it turn clockwise so it evokes the good spirits. So fast forward 10 years, and I revisited spiral projects, and I actually started to make.
This is how I was going to say, how did Uplift come into being? So
yeah, so it came in a similar kind of way. I was looking for a way of lifting people's spirits. The Firewinder was great, but you used to have to put it up outside, and not everybody has an outdoor space, and so the idea. I started to focus on something that everybody did have, and everybody has a windowsill. I was looking at solar-powered energy, and in fact, yours is.
I was just going to say, I'm just getting excited because I'm getting all inventive here. So the sun's not on the windowsill here. I'm thinking, what about my torch?
Yeah, well, your iPhone will do it. Will make it work fine. Actually, I could just do the same with this one. Actually, let's do that.
So it's light energy that is powering.
So it's just pure light, and
the right angle. There we go. And so what's fascinating also is that you've used Was it you've recycled fishing nets for these? So I love that the water is in here.
Yep, totally. It's got this really lovely fluid feel to it. When I first started making them, though, I had this spiral project. I wanted to bring it back out again. I wanted to uplift people's spirits. This was post Brexit, and I actually I got really down about Brexit. Not because it didn't. It did or it didn't go the way I voted. I couldn't give a shit. I honestly, excuse my language, but I couldn't care. It doesn't matter. It's like it's like whatever goes on in the big world, you can't use that to blame for your problems, or you just have to get on and deal with it.
Is it how it split the nation, and it's driven a wedge between families, which the current situation is making even worse?
That was what I found so difficult, and I thought, why has everybody become so righteous? Why do you, because it wasn't what you think was, you kind of attached to the opposites of things. And there was just like this madness descended. So I thought, well, what can I do? Maybe this is the chance to start making things in England. Come on, let's just take the right step forward. Let's make things in England. Let's do something that's good for people's mental health. Let's make something that's beautiful, that's powered by the sun. And so I started making these spiral sculptures. And actually it was when visiting my gran with one, and the first ones are made out of walnut and they were stacked up. I mean, I've made 1,600 of these things now out of 22,000 little pieces of wood or fishing nets or whatever. So it's been a big job. But the first one I made, I took it to see my gran, who was suffering from dementia. And my gran was like the queen of my folklore. So she was the encourager. I mean, she is like it's like the sun, just the sun came out of the clouds when I was with her. It was for both of us. It was a very, very, very special relationship. So to seeing her decline into dementia, and the backdrop of that was Brexit, and all of my friends suddenly now like not communicating with each other because of this strange political situation. It was just like, it really did my head in. So I thought, well, I'm going to just make something beautiful. What's the most beautiful? It's like, that's my response. It's like, I'm not even going to write one word of negativity. I'm not going to tell anybody what my feelings are. I'm just going to make something beautiful. And I created this object called Uplift. What was funny, and so because I'd been informed by this Buddhist teacher in Java, it must turn clockwise, so it evokes the good spirits, right? So when the sun shines on Uplift, it turns clockwise and it goes upwards. So I did that, and I explained that sentiment, and I sent hundreds of these things around the world. And then something strange happened, and this was like a lesson. So I'm not a reader, but I'm paying attention, right, in life. So something strange happened, and that was, I started getting emails from customers, and they'd say, oh, I'm having a bad day. And you're like, what's that got to do with me? What do you mean you're having a bad day? It's like, why are you telling me this? And they'd say, oh, well, because the Uplift sits spiraling downwards. And I would say, well, don't be daft, because it's just a spiral, it's a solar powered spinner. Just because it's going down, it's like a waterfall goes down. It means nothing. But the fact that I had said, oh, when it goes upwards, it evokes the good spirits, it presented the idea to people that because they weren't getting what they'd hoped, that perhaps the opposite meant the opposite. So it was bad spirits. Now, this was not everybody, but it made me realize that even in 2020, there's a certain amount of superstition that exists within people's minds.
Hang on, I want to interject here.
Yeah.
Because as an energy worker, we do spirals in both directions, and we would always visit the anti-clockwise direction first. Why? Because it unwinds, it clears out, it creates space, so that when you go clockwise again, there is space for the new energy to come in. So you need both.
You need both, quite, and this is it. You need both, and whereas people seemed to be more polarized, and it was almost like, oh, I'm not getting what I want, and it's wanting to go up. And I'd say, well, you only just changed the directions, and so I know that, but and it made me, Clara, go on exactly. Come to that same conclusion that you just said, that you need both. So what I started to do was realize that, hold on, it doesn't matter which way, and actually both, there's a dynamic that involves both of them. So what I started to imagine was when the Uplift turns, being somebody who's thought before about how, you know, how do I see the wind? I'd start looking at this and wondering what the airflow was doing in it. And the airflow to me was doing all things. So as this turns around, the air was it was moving upwards, and then it would bellow out around the edges and it would come back down again. So you'd have this constant dynamic of spiraling up and down, even though I could only see this one thing. And I then decided to model the pathway of the airflow as a shape. And this is the shape that I created. And this is what the air was doing inside the Uplift. And it was this way of expressing a dynamic in a spiral that when I turned it, it did both things. So it both moved up and down. I don't know how well you can see that. And then essentially, that was going on in my mind for a long time. I found myself on retreat with our mutual friend, Stephen, for the first time practicing Qigong. So I didn't even know that was going to be a component part to the retreat that we were on. But well, what I found immediately was, oh my God, the moves we're doing here, they're the moves that I do at the end of a run when I'm in a good mood. They felt so natural. They felt like, oh, these are the kind of, like, if I'd been on holiday and I'd run to the top of a mountain, I'd find myself getting to the top and I'd claim in my space and I'd be just doing stuff that was like in me. And suddenly, as a group of people, we were doing Qigong, and I realized that it was like we were acting out the component parts to this whole dynamic. And so somehow, through an intense few days, because I came away from that meeting and that week with such clarity, and the clarity I had was this exact shape here, and it was in my mind for about 6 months, and it was a way of expressing a dynamic that both moved up and down, and it expanded and it contracted all at the same time. And
hang on just a minute. Hang on. It was, you picked it up, it was still, you put it down and it's moving. Talk us through that.
Well, so it's just geometry, right? It is just a form. So there is a, beneath here, there's a, it's as fabulously Heath Robinson as just a record player. The shape, it took me a long time to work the shape out. So it's a very clever mathematical form. Don't need to get lost in that. It's like, it's just perfect. It's like the designs. It's funny when you see a finished piece of something, and you kind of go, oh my God, and it could look genius, or it could look really, really rare, or whatever. And that's just, all these things are possible, but only through like iteration and development and feeling it and feeling it and feeling it and feeling it. But I think what I've gone such a long-winded way to asking a question that you perhaps set out about, which was about spirals, and I'm trying to answer the idea that I no longer. This is what happened when I did Qigong. I used to think, why am I thinking about spirals? I'd never done energy work. I'd never met people who are necessarily well articulated in that space. And suddenly, being with a group of people doing Qigong who were all in tune with energy work. One of them was a master who had this greater insight through Stephen. And I suddenly went, I'm just channeling some sort of truth, and actually it's a universal thing. And I felt so reassured by the experiences I had. For the first time, I didn't feel mad, and I don't mean that in a, I know I have a healthy amount of madness in me, but I'd always go, what? But why am I so obsessed with spirals? I'm just like, because it was something I was feeling within me, and it's something that I just had to do.
I mean, I don't know. We've got Deborah's watching, so hello. What are you feeling about this movement? So when I first saw this, because it's on your website, tomlawton.com.
Yeah, and as you're talking, I might just bring my camera in closer so we can see it a little bit more.
What happened to me when I saw this is I started doing all this sort of natural kind of movement, which is Qigong, this spontaneous Qigong in expression with, or in response to what this shape was showing me, or inspiring in me, or encouraging me to do, and anyway, but it is all that fluidity and that undulation that we have the potential of in our bodies, and we forget that we can do this. And this sculpture, it kind of fires it up. It goes, remember this way of moving.
Totally. So it's like, it's funny, I have a conversation with a friend, and we call the subject title of the conversation all around this and the shape, and it's called old spirals rising is the theme of the conversation, because it's something that was within us. There's something really interesting when you I discovered this the other day. So when you look at this in plan, it's actually slightly more, you see the ring slightly better. In fact, I might be better off doing it
like a rose. It looks like a flower.
Yeah, let's go from above. So if we're above,
keep going.
Keep going into it. Oh, it is something else. But what I noticed was that, and I believe this is the case, there was a place in Avebury called the Hen Shop, and their logo is this from above, and they said that it's the old pathways around the inner stones and the outer stones follow this kind of loop pathway. So you go inward spiral, then outward spiral, then inward spiral, then outward spiral. And so there is something that's old and sacred about this. There's one caveat I must make, and that's that this one's going too fast. So if people want to check out the other ones, and I've got an installation going on in town in the front room of a pub, because the pubs are closed. It's amazing. This is what's incredible. I've put it out to the world, and I've just called it Wonder. So I've not called it a chi machine. I've not called it anything to do with Tao or anything to do with anything else, because I want to, and I want to tell everybody about it, but I want to just hold back on, so to let people discover their own reasons and rhyme behind these things. And I think there's something nice about doing that. And at the moment, I'm really enjoying other people's interpretation of it.
That's it. And it's that when you say the word wonder, that you inspire wonder and awe.
Yeah.
With this,
yeah.
That connects people to their spirituality, their otherness, their fuller sense of being, that part of them that is eternal, that's always been there, that's curious about the world that we're living in, that's like, and also mesmerized by sunset. How many sunsets have we all seen? How many full moons have we all seen? How many starry nights? And yet every single one inspires wonder and awe.
Completely.
Connects something deep. So if that's what this is helping with, I think good on you. This is beautiful piece of sculptural genius.
That's right. And then you also find, and this is what's so sweet about it as well, because I really can't bear having to sell things. I like to just, if you can create and let the world take these things as they are, then I enjoy that. But what I'm definitely discovering is that those people who are in tune to where this has come from, I don't even need to explain it to them. And you are, by demonstration of us having this conversation, it's hit your frequency, and we're straight here having a call. I've had other people who've actually come to visit me to say they must come and see this. And it tells me so much about their open-mindedness and what they're feeling. And I really love it. Do you know, one of the things I'm most proud of is how the Christian church have responded to it, because I've always had a slightly I don't know, deeply respectful relationship with organized religions and faith and people of it, and I love the buildings, but they've never really sold it to me, because I've never seen a vicar do the wonder dance, so to speak, or move in a way that makes me go, oh, that's whatever's going on in his mind's interesting. It tends to not be. But actually, I found that the more read and the more confident the reverend or the person from the church is, the more open-minded they are. And so I made this, and I made the larger one, and I had it in the office, and I showed it to the Reverend of Malmesbury Abbey, and the response is just amazing. I mean, they see eternity and infinity in it, and they then said, we would like to give it a home permanently in the medieval abbey. And to start with, they want it to be put into what's called St Aldheim's Chapel, and it's it's so old, it goes back to, I think, about 1100, and it's opposite where the resting places of the first King of England, Athelstan. So you've got Athelstan's buried there. Now we're talking the grandson of King Alfred. His resting place is there. They have the sacred chapel called St. Ardime's Chapel, and they want this to arrive in the chapel for what's called Ascension. And again, I'm learning on the fly here, but in the Christian calendar, that's when the Holy Spirit comes back, essence of Jesus, and then it appears for Pentecost. And they're going to do a whole service around it. So this
is magnificent, because you're mixing up the medicine from through the ages, and also opening the portals. I mean, I'm so interested to know what other energy workers make of this. You know, we've got a couple of comments here that are just like saying how amazing this is and that they absolutely love it. And Deborah's saying that she thought she was the only one that was fascinated by spirals. You're not alone, sister.
No, well, this is what you discover later on, is that you're so not alone. And you know, history does have this way. There's an amazing lady called June Purse. If I've got it correct. If I haven't, forgive me. Jill Purse.
The sound medicine woman. Yeah.
Yes, and she's the wife of a guy I'm a big fan of called Rupert Sheldrake. Right. And they've got amazing creative kids as well. But I since I've done this and I put it public, people have gone, "Oh, you must see The Mystical Spiral by Jude Purse." And funnily enough, I bought it a year ago, but I've then been shown films, and she was on this page in the 1970s. So it's like there's
universal truths running through this, which is what Deborah's suggesting. Maybe truth is a good name for it, but I also like wonder too, because that inspires people. If it's called wonder, they will open to the wonder of. But also this unity, which is where you first started off about being someone that you live for unity. I am with you on that. That something like this, it's cross-cultural, it's cross-generational, it's feeling like it's going cross-dimensional as well.
And that's where it gets really interesting, is because I through the conversations and the meetings with Stephen, I also gained a confidence about something else altogether, and that's something that's so difficult to speak about, and it's to do with this relationship with the ether, and the life, as we all probably know, has all sorts of synchronicities and coincidences and moments where you just can't quite explain it. And around the time of this coming to realization, that's a good word for it, so many of those things came into me. And what was so brilliant was that I'm not in pursuit of altered states of mind through chemicals or drugs or anything like that. I am so happy for anybody to do whatever they're doing. I've got friends who love mushrooms, and the best conversations I have is when they're on mushrooms. It's not my thing, but I have a mind that's open to go with it. Now, what was so interesting was that the time on retreat with Stephen was meditation and Qigong and good conversation. And that was basically it. And I kind of went into my highest creative self, and that was really good feeling, to kind of know that I could articulate myself in a way. And it's almost like producing this piece logs that time, because of course in life you waver from that center point. How could you not, after 12 months of lockdown, after so many months of us homeschooling, after all of these things, it's so difficult to keep that central balance and those channels perfectly there. But what I do know is that the last time I was away, I was in holiday, I was in Granada, it was with Stephen and a wonderful collective of people who have all become friends.
I'll tell you what, let me see if I can do something clever here, like a lot of people do when they're doing live Zooms. There's a picture of you and Stephen, and I would just love to share that with people. So I'm just going to do a little screen share and show a picture of oh, hang on, that's not what I meant. Screenshot that. There we go. Is that right? Oh. Is that showing it now? Can you see?
I can't, but maybe the viewers can.
Oh, there it is. Share. There we go. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So that is Tom Lawton with Barefoot Doctor, Stephen Russell, back in September 2019. Yeah, was that this was on the retreat that you're talking about?
This was on the retreat, and actually we'd become friends before that. I went to a workshop of his in Chippenham randomly at the back of a pub. It was, that was my encounter with him. I've been a fan since I was in my 20s. He used to talk on the Johnny Walker show with Johnny Walker, Drive Time. Johnny's become a friend as well. And as a young 20-something, it was amazing to hear these two gentlemen talking in prime time about soul and consciousness and energy and things that felt like they were more relevant conversations than anything else, but nobody talked about them. So I always had this, well, I only ever knew him through his voice. I always had this thing with Stephen of like, what a man, what a man. And then I kind of like lost touch with that, that he wasn't on the radio, lost touch with that sense. I grew a family, life pulled you in all sorts of ways. And then out of the blue, I received an email saying, oh, do you know Stephen's doing a talk at the in Chippenham? And this would be about 3 years ago. And I was like, oh, wow, great. I was like, 50 quid. Oh my God, that's a lot for 2 hours. I can't do that. And then thought, I must do. I never do anything for myself. And so I said to my wife, I'm going to do that. She's like, brilliant, do it. Get out of the house. And it was remarkable. It was remarkable as an experience. Yeah, and it was the first formal introduction I'd had to Tao, or Taoism, or Taoism, or whatever you want to call it. I'd read the Tao of Pooh when I was about 20, so I'd obviously always, and I've always been felt an affinity with it. I get it. I get the way. As a creative, it is the only way. Actually, it is like it's the way things end up happening was the Tao. That was it. And so actually, you're so often just got to get out the way of how things should be. It does require huge patience to allow things to find their order and their way, and that can bring certain stresses. So doing that dance act with the way and then with the modern world, they're very juxtaposed. So I think that requires, for me, it requires very simple living. Actually, I have to be, I'm not materialistic. I don't have the same, I don't need to go skiing at winter. I don't need to do all certain things. I'm just not part of that. But my creatively, I'm well in tune with these things. This experience with Stephen was incredible 3 years ago. I had to go on retreat with him. That was amazing. And then we became very good friends. So he would then visit me in Malmesbury up until the solstice before, the winter solstice before he passed away out of the blue in January, which was just the most shocking thing. But even that had like a little bit of a jokerness to it. In the, I don't know if you ever saw the video that he recorded the day before he passed away.
2 or 3 days before. I mean, this is what I mean, like you were saying. I mean, there was a chuckle here. He always saying, he said, I told you I was going. I told you it was going to happen. And I told you that the miracle is you. Yeah. You being in a body, that is the miracle. Always to say, because soon I'm not going to have one. And one day you're not going to have one.
No.
There is part of you that is eternal. And it's like, get in touch with that, because only when you go, you realize how much of your spirituality is actually so present with you here now.
Yeah, totally.
All of this physicality is great to play with, but it's not everything. It's not everything.
No, it's not everything. And I've definitely reframed my relationship with death to many extents, not through his passing, but actually he helped me process my gran who had dementia. So this is the reason I turned this into a business. So I made this one. It eased her anxieties. It was wonderful. And I was making one for her. And then she passed away out of the blue. So that absolutely broke my heart. And that was part of, when I went to that retreat, part of that was being able to put all of that into peace. And actually, the Taoist way of framing your almost your soul map, this diamond that extends behind you to your grandparents and their grandparents and everything that's before, and feeling that spiral of DNA, like literally a lattice of life coming forward through you and then through your children and beyond. It really does allow you to extend your perception of the limitations to just this life and this body, and it is richer and it is longer. It actually genuinely is. I am now, without even trying to do it, part of my grandparents. I can't not be that. That's my physical makeup, and there will be ancestral traits, characteristics, ways that I've inherited through them, perhaps through their genetics, perhaps through their way, and I think that's a glorious thing to feel at peace with, because actually it really reminds me that this is the stage, right? Whilst you're on earth, whilst you're alive, for this small amount of time, you've got to make it count. That doesn't mean you should get like overly obsessed, like make it count and I've got to have so much and this is the no, that's missing the point. But this is the time to dance, and
to dance, because we are here on behalf of all our ancestors and also our descendants. And there was something there about, yes, we have this physical connection through our DNA, and I love that you describe it as a light lattice. That is beautiful. But there's also that merging, that weaving, that dancing with soul tribe, with like a spiritual family that is not DNA or physically based.
Yes.
So it's like, whoa, so we are such a mixture here. And the Tao is just playing through us.
Yeah,
like,
it is.
Like if it configured like this, just like this.
It is completely, and certainly this is something that there was a total discovery through life, which is that soul tribe, that collective consciousness is such a real thing. And I had it with Stephen, and he would describe it as a grid, and he'd say we were griddlers, and so fellow griddlers, and it was a rare thing to have a resonance in such a way. It was funny because he was 64 and I would be 44, so there was a difference between us, but which like the same page. And there's something else. Now, as a creative person, I have had my ego smashed so many times because I've done something that I thought was clever, inventive. I mean, like properly clever. I might have patented something. I might have been the first in the world to do something. I might have launched something that could have only come out of my mind. And I thought it's really clever because I've attached to it with my ego. And then I've gone, literally as I've launched it, or maybe a week later, or just before I have, that thing has appeared through someone else's mind on some other part of the planet in the most uncanny way. And it's like it's whipped the carpet from under my feet. So this is an experience that I've had that invited me to reapproach and reframe these things, and probably enabled me to be more humble and certainly less arrogant, which can be a trait of a successful inventor, if the wealth goes with it. And fortunately, I've never had that, so I'm kept perfectly down to earth. You'd have thought you'd done something amazing. In fact, you had, and then it appeared somewhere else in the world, and I would go like, but they don't know me. Yeah, but they don't even know my story.
There's an energetic there as you create. It's in the field. The resonance is there that other people can as well. It's like if you've got a book that wants to be written through you and you don't get round to writing it, you can be sure someone else is going to pick up on that because of the frequency and the energy and the resonance that wants to be birthed.
Yes, completely. And that doesn't mean that you're not original. That doesn't mean that you're not brilliant. It doesn't mean that you weren't the miracle and the thing. But actually, we're all going through life. We're so different, but we have so much to celebrate in how similar we are. We resonate in similar ways. We have similar frustrations, but really more importantly, we have the same dreams. And so we actually want the same things for the world. And that's glorious when you kind of go, it's not just about you. And that's why as a designer, I don't hold things too tightly. It's kind of like you've just got to let things be. But this has been happening forever. Like when the first axes were made by Neanderthals, they were discovered in different continents at around the same time. So it's almost like the collective consciousness, the penny drops kind of everywhere, and it's only small men and women, because you can never generalize about the two. It's only small-minded people who go, no, it's mine. It's no, you can't have it. It's mine. And these are traits of business. And this is why, I don't
paradigm.
Yeah, that old possession. It's like it's my patent, it's mine, and my story and my thing. It's like it's a childish way to look at the world.
So here we are stepping into the Aquarian Age now, where it is all really shifting. And there's been, I've been looking at the silver linings of the current situation, and I know that's notwithstanding, we know it's been tough for a lot of people, but there is some real magic coming through as well, and we're going to see the ripples of this, and also that people are there for each other in a way that is more sort of ground level, like, the basic forms, but the simple things, as you say, that's what's important.
Yeah, it is.
you know, continue forward into creating new communities? Or what is it you really need? Not what is it you think some consumable? Because what are we are referred to by governments as being consumers. I mean,
Well, and this is where things are so dangerous, because words are so important. The way, you know, my friend Eric, who's a druid in Malmesbury, and he is so clever about some of his insights, but he'll talk about spellings.
yeah,
And they're spells,
making
spells, and they have such power behind them. If you describe us as the human race, or you describe us as humankind, now one of us is in a race and the other one is being kind. It's
love
like
it, love it, exactly.
The difference is everything.
We could chat for hours.
Yeah, we could. In fact, or there is nothing between us. We could chat for hours forever.
And we've just got another comment in from Deborah. It would annoy me when I was younger, but now I just smile because I can't do everything.
No, you certainly can't do everything,
you don't have to do it all. That's why teams, communities, so that you work with your strengths and the things that are birthing through. You don't have to do everything, and we've been misled when people make lots of money. It's like, I did it all. I'm a self-made millionaire. Bullshit. It's like, no, you're not. Stop telling lies, because you know you've got team. And what is wrong with acknowledging the people that support you? You know, I mean, they're so dear to us, the people that hold support, and that we then offer that to other. We're all holding each other as hands and like going, how can I help? What can I do? What do you need now?
Well, this is it. It's all of us. Yeah, absolutely. And we collaborate and we thrive in that way, where we compete. And this is the thing that I didn't really get. Certainly when you're creative, competition kills creativity. They'll tell you it doesn't. They'll tell you the free market is the way to get things to be. Pepsi's product would only be as good as it is because they're against Coca-Cola's, and the competition is going to be better for the consumer. Actually, it's just a madness. It's just a madness. And besides, there's nothing better than water, and that's all I'm having here. So, but
is that a copper bottle?
Do you know what? It's ceramic, and it's got a little bit of shungite in the bottom of it.
Has it? Okay.
Which is apparently, and this is the story I heard from it was a Russian, was it Peter the Great? So Peter the Great, he stopped all of his troops from getting dysentery, and he walked them via these big lakes in Russia, and they put little bits of shungite into their water flasks, and his army was victorious because of it, because they didn't get poorly. So there are technologies and old ways.
Yes. Well, that's what these copper bottles are used a lot in India to keep the water clear and clean. You have to let it soak for a few hours.
Yes.
Like, how simple is that? And all putting charcoal in your water. You don't need plastic cartridges. You don't even need to plug it in. I know there's some very fancy water magic makers out there, which is great, but actually, can we get back to the simplicity, so it's available for everybody?
Well, this is it.
Love this. So where can people find out more about you and the Wonder and the Uplift?
So the best place to find me is everything's at tomlawton.com. So that's Tom, LAWTON.com. You'll find it all there. Uplift lives on my website, which is called Be Uplifted, and it's beuplifted.co.uk, and you can find Wonder in there as well. And in fact, that's the place to go. One of the coolest things you can do. So this is an early prototype, and in fact, this sat with us through all of the lockdowns on this record player, and we've adored it. It's going a little bit too fast for me. If you're watching this, please go and check out the one. You'll find it at beuplifted.co.uk/wonder. I've got some glorious video of the larger version. It's going slower. It's really magical, but you can do this cool thing, because my 8-year-old showed it to me, and he literally took the TV remote control, and he recorded. I said, Google Tom Lawton Wonder, and the next thing I know was I was full screen, big screen in front of him, and the Wonder was full screen in front of us. And so I've done an hour loop of that, and I've done it so that people can sit at home and really enjoy it. And actually, there's an invitation in it, and the invitation is the way I see this now is to do with attachment, actually, and it's a teaching that Stephen was so eloquent at, and I can't wait for his words and wisdoms to find me more clearly. They're here, they'll come. When I've done my work, I think perhaps I will find a way of channeling that great man even more. But he would always, it's like if you can get lost in the shape of this, the movement, and it's and the art's not attaching to it, and the art's not attaching to anything that's good or bad. You know, life will, there will always be something that's pulling you down, but there's always something that's pulling you up, and there's always something that it's expanding, and there's always something that's contracting. And the art is in not getting drawn into too much attachment upon the kind of on the dynamics of those things. It's exactly what you said about energy work, to know that you need both spirals, and that's what makes the whole. And I think that this, when I see this, it invites me always to take that, and it's a higher perspective. It's what Stephen would always describe it as, going to the back of your mind. So it's almost like the drama is there in front of us. That drama could be anything, but it could certainly be, in the last year, the pandemic and COVID and all of these things. Oh my God, the death rates are going up. Oh, but the vaccine's coming. You know, this the story and this thing, and you could get so attached to that. You'll be doing the loop with the shape, you know, and you can't. You have to have the wisdom to step behind that and realize, to some extent, it's an illusion, because it's a story, and it's the way that people are telling the world, and the chances are, unless you're very unlucky, and I feel for you, it's not going on in your body. It's not what's affecting you. So it's like pushing it slightly further away, and that's what I love about this form. And I'm a bit the same with politics as well, and economics. Are just like, hey, you need the left wing and the right wing for the bird to fly. You need them both. It's the dynamic, and it's this, and that's where I feel why I'm so proud to see this now come to life. I'm doing a crowdfunding campaign at the moment, so if people are enthused by this piece, my plan is to make it much larger. It'll be slower. It'll be golden. So the way it will, and by gold I mean real gold. So it'll only be a micron of it. Just the only amount we can afford, but it will mean that when it reflects light, it's doing so in a golden sense. And I think that you just know the difference. So it'll move slowly, and I'm going to create this space for contemplation and meditation in this sacred abbey around it. I would invite anybody who's watched this talk to come and join us this summer. They can contribute to the campaign through my Kickstart, which you'll find through tomlawton.com or through Be Uplifted. Just go to Wonder. And what I'm trying to do is, I'm going to hold back on all of the reasons why it's so important to me, and I'm going to invite these conversations to come into play. And because some of the things that people say, and this is what I think is so interesting, you, Clara, clearly have been drawn to similar truths in life that I have, and otherwise we wouldn't have such a wonderful mutual friend and such a connection from the day I met you and from now. And it's what's lovely is that the magic that we kind of tangibly feel, and perhaps trying to wake other people up with, it's there, it's in people, it really is. And sometimes you need to just slowly let it come out. So some of the responses I've had to this have been exquisite. I had a friend who said, and you wouldn't have necessarily expected this, he said he saw the inner rings were like the arms of his children that come up around his neck, and the outer rings like his arms coming around them, and it's like it's nurturing something, it's embracing something that you're nurturing. And I've had other people who've been in tears with it, and other people who've said they see the genesis of consciousness, and
wow,
and it's really interesting. One of the most fascinating is a conversation I have with and this is the conversation with the subject title, Old Spirals Rising, and I have it with a lady called Kate Raworth, and she's so smart. She's a professor of economics, but she's got the model for where the world can move beyond capitalism. And she's got the ear of everybody from the World Economic Forum to the governor of the Bank of England, and everybody's really going, Kate Raworth is amazing. Her vision's very clear. And it's called Donut Economics, and it's just about putting limits on the planetary boundaries and social boundaries so that we can get all of life to thrive. But I know full well that she's talked about donuts, but a posh name for a donut is a torus. And actually what this shape is doing in itself, it's a toroidal pathway, and it's almost like a self-regulating energy dynamic that governs the whole of the world and the whole of the universe. And now we need to bring it into our systems and change the way we do everything. So I have Kate Raworth back. I've almost visualized the next form of what she's trying to do. I'm going to give her the shape for free if she wants to use it as a symbol of her work, and invite a new way of seeing the world. I think that there's a lot that's coming forward to this, and it's not because I'm a genius, it's because I'm just true to myself, and I think this is one of those things that's emerging in the great collective consciousness, the big soup that's out there. So be quite prepared to see the same thing appear in Australia, in Canada, in India, in China. It doesn't matter. I've just created it for my reasons, and I'm amazed at how it's resonating. So it's exciting.
It's very exciting. I can feel your excitement, and thank you so much for sharing so much with us here on Chi Time.
Oh, that's a pleasure. That's a pleasure. It really, really is. It was just a breeze of a conversation to see you and chat to you.
Yeah, really lovely. So we'll just have to wind up now, but we're definitely going to keep in touch with you and keep our listeners and viewers in touch with their new developments and that kind of thing. So
for sure. Like I always do, what I try and make objects so that people can affordably own them, and I'll make it all really sustainably and ethically. And I will do that with this at some point. Just to start with, it's going to be public, and then it will become available in some sort of form. And it's great.
Thank you so much, Tom.
Pleasure.
And thank all of you for watching Chi Time TV. It's been great to have you on board. The replay is here for you. If you have missed the whole lot, go back to the beginning. It'll be as soon as I press stop, it'll be there for you to watch from the beginning. If you haven't subscribed, please do so, and then you get to know what we're getting up to next. And if you're interested in the Qigong that I offer, then head over to claraapollo.com, because I have a new course coming up on the 30th of March called Qigong Breathwork, where we, as Tom was talking about earlier, this invisible energy of the air, and how we have such an intimate relationship with that, and how we look at being inspired by the rhythm of our breath just as much as being in honor of the air supporting us, because I think, as Barefoot Doctor used to say, breathing is the most important thing. Everything else can wait. And it's been so lovely to have his energy in this Chi Time as well. So go well, my friends. I'll see you next time. Thanks for being on the live. Oh, beautiful. See you next week, and we'll let you know who's on next. I'm not quite sure exactly who it is. I've got a couple of ideas, so I will send you a message. And if not, if you're on Facebook, come over to Chi Time TV, and we will catch up with one another, I am sure. Thanks so much for watching and being on Chi Time.